Help me find the V1.
I'd rather fist myself with a handful of razors. Besides, Cleopatra Jones said there's no V1 to find.
Homelander just made the biggest mistake of his life. And the terrifying part is, it might already be too late to fix it. Because the moment he takes V1, the moment he believes he's finally becoming unstoppable, is actually the moment everything begins to collapse. Not slowly, not accidentally, but by design. And the person behind it all might be the only one intelligent enough to pull it off without him ever noticing. Until it's too late. Before we break this down, here's what you need to understand. This isn't just another theory about Homelander getting stronger. This is about why his final upgrade isn't an upgrade at all. It's a trap, a calculated move that turns his greatest strength, his obsession with power, into the exact thing that destroys him. And when you look at the patterns the Boys has been building from the very beginning, this outcome doesn't just make sense, it feels inevitable. Right now, Homelander's at the peak of his dominance. He's no longer pretending to be a hero. He doesn't care about public approval the way he used to. He's embraced who he really is, someone who rules through fear, control, and absolute superiority. But at the same time, something has shifted. He's more unstable than ever, more emotional, more reactive. And that combination is dangerous, not just for the world, but for him. Because the more powerful Homelander feels, the less careful he becomes. And that's exactly where Sister Sage enters the picture. Sage isn't like anyone else Homelander has dealt with before. She doesn't worship him, she doesn't fear him in the same way, and most importantly, she doesn't think emotionally. She operates on pure logic, pure strategy. She sees patterns, outcomes, long-term consequences. While everyone else reacts to Homelander, Sage studies him, and what she sees is something no one else fully understands. Homelander isn't invincible. He's predictable. He's driven by ego, by insecurity, by the need to feel superior at all times. And that means if you give him exactly what he wants, more power, he won't question it. He won't doubt it. He'll accept it instantly because it reinforces everything he already believes about himself. That's the opening. And V1 might be the perfect weapon to exploit it. According to this theory, Homelander isn't receiving a true upgrade. He's being manipulated. The injection we see, the one that's supposed to represent the next level of power, could actually be something entirely different. Something engineered, controlled, designed not to elevate him, but to destabilize him at the exact moment it matters most. And when you look at The Boys as a series, this isn't a stretch. This show has never introduced power without consequences. Not once. Every enhancement, every ability, every upgrade comes with a cost. Compound V didn't create heroes. It created broken, unstable individuals whose powers often came with physical or psychological damage. So why would V1 be any different? It wouldn't. In fact, it would be worse, because if Sage is involved and if she's truly as strategic as she appears, then V1 isn't just another version of Compound V. It's a calculated move. And once you understand that, everything starts to click. The most compelling version of this theory isn't that V1 is fake or harmless or even immediately dangerous. It's that it's designed as a long-term kill switch, something that works just enough to earn Homelander's trust before it begins to break him from the inside. At first, everything would feel normal, maybe even better than normal. Homelander might experience a surge of confidence, a sense that he's reached a new level. And that's crucial, because the more he believes in the upgrade, the less he questions it. But slowly, things begin to change. Not enough to raise immediate alarm, just enough to create instability. Maybe his powers don't respond as precisely as they used to. Maybe there are moments, brief, almost unnoticeable, where he feels weaker, slower, less in control. At first, he would ignore it, dismiss it, because admitting weakness is something Homelander simply cannot do. But over time, those moments would grow, and that's when the real damage begins. Because Homelander doesn't just rely on his powers, he relies on the belief that he is untouchable. That belief is the foundation of everything he is. The moment it cracks, even slightly, everything else starts to collapse with it. And Sage would know that. She wouldn't need to overpower him. She wouldn't need to fight him directly. All she would need to do is introduce uncertainty, a single flaw in the system, a single moment where Homelander isn't sure of himself. That's all it takes. From there, the situation escalates, because the more unstable Homelander becomes, the more dangerous he becomes, not just to others, but to himself. He starts making mistakes, acting impulsively, overcompensating, trying to prove that he's still in control, even as that control slips further and further away. And eventually, it leads to the moment everything breaks, the moment where Homelander expects to win. This is where the theory reaches its most devastating possibility. Imagine Homelander entering a final confrontation against Butcher, against Soldier Boy, or whoever stands against him. He's confident, certain, maybe even excited, because in his mind, this is the moment he proves once and for all that he's above everyone else. And then suddenly, something goes wrong. His power doesn't hit the same way. His strength falters. His control disappears. For the first time, Homelander isn't the strongest person in the room, and he doesn't understand why. That confusion, that split second of disbelief, is everything, because that's the moment he becomes vulnerable, not just physically, but psychologically. And that's where the theory takes its darkest turn, because the worst possible outcome for Homelander isn't death, it's survival. What if V1 doesn't kill him? What if it strips him of everything that made him who he is and leaves him alive to face it? No powers, no invincibility, no fear-based control. Just a man who used to be a god. That outcome is far more brutal than any fight, because it forces Homelander to confront something he's never had to face before. Consequences. A world where people aren't afraid of him. A world where he doesn't dominate every interaction. A world where he's just human. And for someone like Homelander, that's unbearable, because his entire identity is built on superiority. Without that, there's nothing left. This is exactly the kind of ending the boys would build toward. Not a heroic victory, not a clean resolution, but a complete deconstruction of power. A reminder that strength, when abused, doesn't lead to dominance. It leads to collapse. And that's why this theory works so well. Because it doesn't rely on coincidence, it relies on character. Homelander's downfall doesn't come from an external force. It comes from within, from his own decisions, his own arrogance, his own inability to question the things that make him feel powerful. And Sage, she's simply the one who guides that process. She doesn't need to hate Homelander. She doesn't need to fear him. All she needs to do is recognize that he's a liability, that his instability makes him dangerous in ways that can't be controlled long term. And once she reaches that conclusion, the logical next step isn't loyalty, it's removal. Not through brute force, not through open conflict, but through strategy, through patience, through giving Homelander exactly what he wants and letting it destroy him. In the end, that's what makes this theory so powerful, because it turns the entire concept of an upgrade into something much darker, something much more fitting for the world of the boys. Because in this universe, power isn't a reward, it's a trap. And the moment Homelander takes V1, he's not becoming unstoppable. He's stepping into the final stage of his downfall. A downfall that was never about who could defeat him, but about whether he could survive himself.